do you really feel that you were tested?
Yeah, I
I
do.
mean, you do feel that that was your test to bring them, it's kind of a hard test. I mean, it's, what, how are you supposed to, corral new spirits and bring them into, the first incarnation? I mean, that's got to be
Well,
some serious spiritual ability, to
well,
say the
I'm with
least.
you, and I was being tested, but I should have known. I learned all of these things. I was still very rooted in human existence. I wasn't in spirit world.
Mm.
That's what I was being tested. As I was being tested, what's going to be my next step in my spiritual evolution? Was I going to come back to earth as a person, or if my body was still here, back in my original state, or was I going to go on to the spirit world to be a spirit guide or go to the next evolutions? All things we could talk about later. But I failed, and it's okay.
Let me stop you. Let me
Yeah.
stop you right there. So at this point, this is your second place.
Mhm.
Do you understand at this point that you are not on Earth? You're in a spiritual world.
No,
Do
I
you
had
think
no idea.
Do you think you're in a dream, or you don't? Have you even just forgotten about your past life on Earth? Like, where are you at this point?
I just thought I was just working at it. No, it sounds so strange because when I recount it to you now, the first things I think of course, you would know that you were in another place.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, I just didn't. I remember at the end of the work-like setting is that I started to feel things were out of the ordinary, obviously, from what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I started to feel that, then I was in this next place.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I was in this next place and my higher self gave me the awareness to really know what was going on, then I went to the next place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to explain it. And I also like to say for the longest time after this point is that I didn't think any of this was real after I woke up in my hospital room. Mm-hmm. I thought it was just the drugs. I mean, I thought it was, I thought it was the world according to Steve. Right. I did not think it was real. It took a long time for me to really understand this. Mm-hmm. So now I get to the next part. And what this is this is a part in Kings Park where I live on Long Island called The Bluff. And once again, from my experience. And I would sit on this big overlooking the Long Island Sound. And I would sit there with my two friends, Joey and John, and we'd watch the sunset every day. Mm-hmm. And I use the term day loosely. But this went over and over again. And I would sit there and I'd watch the sunset with them. Now, keep in mind is that let me tell you a little bit more about the experience is that I didn't walk from place to place. I didn't choose to go any place. I just was. I went from scene to scene, almost like it's a play, scene to scene. I didn't have any control over where I was or anything. And it just was. I didn't go to sleep. I didn't eat. It was just, you went from one situation to another. And after this happening thousands and thousands of times, you just got so used to it, just became a very part of your world. You just forgot about it and anything else. I don't even know if there were things around us. It was always just what we were focused on, the situation that was going on at the time. So I would sit there each day and I'd watch the sunset with Joey and John. And this is something that goes on in my town every day. Everyone meets at the Bluff at the end of the day. They bring coffee. Some people bring the red Solo cups with other things in them. Mm-hmm. And everyone just hangs out. People here in this town are lifers and no one ever leaves. And if they leave, they always come back. It's like one of those places. And so I'd watch the sunset every day with them. And then one day is that I came to a realization is that Joey and Johnny were both dead. They had died earlier that year. They were good friends of mine. They were in their 70s and 80s. We're a big family in Kings Park. And I realized that they were dead. And how could they be here? Mm-hmm. And so for time and time, as we watched that sunset every day, is that I kept on saying to myself, I have to ask them why they're here. Because they can't be here. And then as each day went on, for some reason, I didn't want to ask them because we just sat there every day. Mm-hmm. But I started to feel this anxiety rising in me. like I have to ask them why they're here. And eventually it got to the point that I knew if I didn't ask them right now, I would never get the chance to ask them again. And so
it sounds like to me you kept repeating day after day until you finally would ask them.
I think you're right, Jeff. Yeah. I think that you're right. And actually, I really didn't think it in that way until you just mentioned it now. I'm going to have to write that down. No, because as I experience this, is that I think of new meanings for things. It's a growth experience. Just as I learn from my life review each time, now each time I review that experience in that place, I learn more about things in that same way, because you're in a new spot each time you learn. And then people like yourself point out things that are perhaps so obvious to other people, but oblivious to me. I think that's exactly what happened. And so this went on. And then finally I asked them in my own way through awareness, and they said that they were there to make sure that I was all right.